Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. If you were with us last week, you heard a very lively, informative, energetic conversation with Lisette Meuse-Manuel. And it was so expansive and informative that I just had to stop her an hour in and ask her to come back. And if you listen to that episode, you know she said yes. And that's why we're all here now to hear the follow-up to our first conversation. She goes in depth into the concepts of her book. We answered a few questions. Again, if you have more questions for Lisette that you would like to submit, you can DM me on Instagram or Facebook. You can send an email to hello@phineaswrighthouse.com, and there will be links to those two things in the show notes as well. We would love to answer your questions. I'm just eager to know as much as I can about this fabulous topic. So without further ado, here is the continuation of my conversation with lovely Lisette. Kind Lisette, I'm so excited to have you back. Thank you very much for just indulging my enthusiasm and curiosity and desire to celebrate you and this great work that you are putting into the world. Sometimes I feel like everybody else knows all the things that I'm supposed to know too, and I'm the only one who doesn't know them. So I doubt that's true, but even if it is, I'm super thrilled to have your insight and your instruction. And I have to say that since our last conversation, I've been enjoying protein shakes and making sure that they are well balanced. And I feel so much better and energized just in my body, but also in my mind, knowing that I've made good choices for what I'm putting into my body. And that feels good, and it makes for better days. So thank you. Your impact is already felt far and wide.
Well, that's good, because it's very important to nourish our bodies, especially as we age, to keep our energy up, because as we know, once you hit your 50s, you have a lot less energy, right? So I'm glad you tried a few of my tips. And there's always, like we were saying in your opening statement, there's always something to learn, though.
Yeah.
You know, even though I'm like full-time studying person. I like to read, I like to learn, podcasts. Like I can't get enough information. It's just my personality. And you always learn something, because things change too. And with technology and new research and new scientific developments, things change, like at some point they said, oh, don't eat eggs, it's bad for you. Now it is good, then it's bad. So you have to keep up with the things. But on all aspects, especially menopause and female hormones and the female body, there's not a lot of research, because most of the research is done on men. For exercise, it's done on young college-aged men.
Oh,
so
geez.
that has it's not relevant to us, right?
Correct.
So as far as, like fitness and heart rate and how much you can lift and how far you can run or how fast, like all these tests are done on young college-age guys. So they don't have, even if they were to use a young woman, she's still menstruating. So with the hormone fluctuation and full-on estrogen, the results are different. So there's no research for us. We're just old. They just put us aside, put us on the shelf.
That's such a mistake for them.
Yes.
Because we're very wise and we've just figured out that we know how to get off the shelf.
Yeah. And this is, I think it's going to lead in the next years. We're going to see a lot of developments there because they're realizing there is a big gap. There is a big missing link, part of the chain. Menopausal women or post-menopausal women, their bodies don't behave the same as a young woman. No, we don't have those hormones. Our muscles, our ligaments, everything is tighter and stiffer. Injuries happen easier. And there's so much going on in our bodies. It's difficult to study, but hopefully they will, because I think there's room for improvement, even with medication, with different diets, different exercise programs. And we're starting to see that. They're now suggesting that postmenopausal women exercise for shorter periods, more intensely, but a shorter. Instead of doing, 90-minute workouts, like 6 days a week, do it 30 to 40, even 45, but more intense, which is what I did this morning with my son. He's my trainer. So we're doing, part of it is weightlifting and very fast circuits. And then we finish with cardio and intervals. And so I'm tired, but I'm not dead. So I'm able to function for the rest of the day, but we don't recover as quickly. And it's super important for women that they eat in a 30 to 45 minute window after exercise. Like I'm talking like a big workout, not a little walk, stroll down the street. But if you're doing weightlifting and things like that, it's very different. Men can go 3 hours or plus. Their body doesn't seem to, have the same effect. But with us, how our muscles recover, our energy, the glucose uptake from the food, like we have a shorter window. So ideally you should, when you get home from the gym, have a snack or have your meal, if depending what time of day you're at. And instead of like going 3-4 hours, because I know some women that will go to the gym and maybe have a sip of something, but don't eat until, much later. So you're not doing your body a service there. So you want to build muscle. Otherwise, if you're not eating in that window and not eating protein, particularly, your body will metabolize its own protein, right? So it's basically eating itself. So you don't want to undo what you're trying to do. So you need to feed the beast so that the muscle builds. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. You're such a wealth of information. I'm so thrilled to be connected with you. And I do not know a woman alive that's going to say yes and amen to a shorter workout.
Yes. Now, if you're already an athlete and you've trained your whole life, that's a different scenario, right?
Sure.
But there is a fluctuation. There is like, I've read and listened to a lot of podcasts of female athletes that were, doing like Iron Women and like really hardcore things. And all of a sudden they're gassing out, right? They're not recovering as well and things like that. And there is a change. So they have to modify a little bit. But of course they can do longer workouts because they've done it their whole life. But if you're just starting out, or you've dabbled in it for a few years, but it's like, okay, I got to do something. Don't start hardcore with like really, really long, intense workout. And you need that recovery time and that stretch and, good sleep and good food to build.
The stretch.
Yes. Very important.
I think what all of this is shining a light on for me personally is just the intention that's required to have the greatest benefit of what I'm doing. So I understand that for my mindset work, and it's why I'm only listening to podcasts and I'm constantly getting this information in. I'm only surrounding myself with people that are speaking truth and life and abundance and possibility and all the good. I have no space for negativity. I'm not available for it.
I do the same.
But to also bring that idea, that curated, complete methodology to my body work that I bring to my mind work. So when I meditate, I wouldn't stop it halfway through and then just get up and think I'm done or think I'm going to have the same effect, then closing the loop on that.
Exactly.
And so that's when you said stretching, like my days are so full and I do not set the intention to prepare my body for them. And when I do, I probably have taken 2 or 3 yoga classes in my 3 yoga classes in my entire life. And as I'm doing those, I think, oh, this is like a spa day, just an hour to stretch my body. How decadent, how fabulous. And then I don't do it because I don't know what the right stretches are or whatever. Like I just find that, and I assume that my days are similar to others in that as a mom or just as a woman that is caring for a lot of moving parts, whether it's children or parents or jobs or spouses or houses or all the things, that I just want to speak for myself. I tend to move from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, and really creating space to take care of myself before my body says, hey, pay attention, something's happening here. So I really appreciate everything that you're saying, and the way that you're saying it helps me desire to implement.
Well, it's a very female thing to do, right? We just do and we care. We're designed by nature. We're caregivers. We're moms. Whether you've had a child or not, you're born that way. Your brain thinks that way. So we just do everything for everyone, and we tend to forget ourselves. So the stretching is very probably at the bottom of the list, but it's so important. Especially as we age, you want to be able to tie your own shoes, later on in life, and prevent falls and broken hips and have flexibility and stability and balance. So, like I go to structured classes and I try to do it at home. And sometimes I just have to put the reminder in my phone and get the ding, 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 time to stretch. My smartwatch will say time to move, because we get busy with other things, and there's always an overwhelm, towards the end of the day. It's like, I got to finish, I got to do it all. And we crash and we go to bed and we forget about our own bodies a lot of times.
Right. And, there was a time in our lives where sleep was enough restoration.
Yeah.
And that is not always the case.
No.
Here, I often say from wherever I am on the property that you can't really get there from here. There's not my house is 239 years old. And there's the main house. And then in 1815, there's this addition. And then in the later 1800s, this was added. And then in the mid 1900s, this was, so there's just, you can't get there from here. Like I get my 10,000 steps.
In the winter. If you have a farm, you probably do.
But even in the winter, just being inside the house, because everything is far and there's stairs. And when I'm carrying 50-pound feed bags to the chicken coop downstairs, I'm just thinking, how many more years can I do this? How many more years can I do this?
Well, the fact that you're doing it will allow you to do it many more years, right? Yes. You got to keep using it or you lose it. But it's good. Daily movement is called NEAT, N-E-A-T. It stands for non-exercise. I forget the terminology, but anyway, it's like your daily movement. How many times or minutes you move in a day is more important than specifically structured workouts. If you have an active job, as I do, because I'm always moving around and massaging people, and like my job, I'm rarely sitting. And if your sort of work, so you need to do to move, every hour, get up, do something, move around, stretch a bit, get those steps in, you know, take the stairs as often as you can, and all these little things that we've heard about, right? But it's to put them in practice is not always easy and convenient, but just keep trying to do it is, you know, is the main thing. And then as you
Right.
age, then if you've never stopped moving, then you just keep on moving. It gets slower and a little more difficult as we age, but you got to keep doing it. My
Oh,
father is 76 years old, and he spent the last 8 years of his life building a walking trail, like a nature trail. And he
oh,
works in
neat.
that trail like 6 to 8 hours a day, hauling logs and chopping wood and dragging rocks and digging trenches. And it's about, I think both ways is about 5 kilometers. So,
Wow.
you know, it's important to move. So I was that's how I was brought up in that environment. So, you know, it's just something we do.
Right. And finding something that you love.
Mhm.
I love living here. I delight in the work of my hands. So walking back and forth, I love having chickens. So
Yep.
carrying their chicken food delights me.
Mhm.
And building that trail for your dad, like that's beautiful. And it's something that he gets to enjoy, and he's delighting in the work of his hands as well. That's
Exactly.
beautiful. And he's in nature and all those things that just
So
lend
it's important to
themselves.
ground ourselves in nature, because you know, we're in a very artificial world, so much technology and not enough outdoor times and artificial lights and things like that. So it's important to be in sunlight without sunscreen for at least 15 minutes to get your vitamin D, to get your hormones, your circadian rhythms, you know, more balanced and working properly, and also to ground yourself by walking barefoot in the grass or in the sand or on the ground. So, you know, that's how humans are designed to live, to be. But we have plastic shoes and plastic everything and artificial lighting. And so there, you know, it contributes to a lot of our diseases and stress and just general malaise of the modern society, right? Not enough outdoor time.
Right. And that's one of the things that I'm so excited again about this property, and inviting people here to just have retreats for themselves, for their
Mhm.
friends, where you can just go outside and paint or walk around, and the grass is really lush. And I've been walking around barefoot, which is
Not great for the pedicure, but it's so good for your health.
right. Oh, my Southern California upbringing of everything stucco unless we were at the beach. So I don't care for the feeling of my feet being wet if they're in shoes. So I've had to really be mindful and have a good intention of doing
Mhm.
that. But I'm so surprised, even 3 or 4 minutes of walking in the beautiful grass barefoot, it changes my energy. It
It
changes
does.
the
It
way
really
I
does.
feel. It's really amazing. And it's funny, what you said about the vitamin D. When I
Mhm.
moved here from California, my very first physical, the blood work, I had a vitamin D deficiency
Yes.
because it's cold. I'd been wearing a parka for the past 6 months, and only this little round piece
Exactly.
of my face was sticking out. So of course I wasn't getting enough sun, especially
In
how
wintertime.
much I used to get from my body, just by being outside in California.
Yeah.
So it's like all of these things are working together and coming together. And I love that the advice to elongate our life and to make it more enjoyable and to be in the bodies that we desire are all beautiful things that sound inviting and welcoming.
Mhm.
Be in the sunshine, be in nature, be in the grass, stretch, rest, eat well. All of those things sound very, very nice. So
Exactly.
I am a big yes to all of those things.
And as women enter menopause, it's almost like well, really, it is a different body, functions completely differently. And it's like a different chapter of life. So in my book, there are 10 chapters. And the first one, it starts with nutrition, because that's the base, it's the root. If you don't eat well, like, it's hard to recover, it's hard to heal, it's hard to have the proper energy to function, right? A lot of diseases are caused by bad diets that cause inflammation, everything from certain types of depression to heart disease. So the food is what builds you. So it follows with, first chapter is nutrition, then we talk about movement, and then hydration, because most people don't drink their water or adequately. And if you're sweating with hot flashes and night sweats, you need to replenish that water. And so it follows through like that. So all the things on how, the name of the book, the title is Prepare to Pause. So preparing for menopause, right? So if you are 35, 38, that's when it starts. So it's important to prepare your body, take good habits, take supplements if you need to, like get all your vitamins and your minerals up to par, fill up your tanks because when it hits, it hits. So there's a lot of things that we can't, it's not going to stop the symptoms, but it certainly makes a huge difference on how you go through it and how your body recovers, because it's just as dramatic as a teenager, right? Like all the changes, but in reverse. There is a section in my book where I refer to that as teenagers being like, when you have a movie and you have a person transforming into a werewolf, the bones cracking, the limbs stretching, hairs growing, all this stuff, voracious appetite. Teenagers kind of go through that, but menopausal women go through that as well. So it's like a metamorphosis, or I can't
Metamorphosis.
In English. My French is coming out.
No, that it sounds better in French. Everything does.
So, so by having a good foundation of a good diet, a good exercise program, a good sleep routine, super important, because menopausal women don't sleep very well for a period of time, right? And as we age, our sleep just gets a lighter and less, shorter. So you got to work on that proper sleep hygiene. And so all the things that, can help your body go through. And of course, the last chapter is all about what's going to happen. So I don't want to give it all away, but like everything from, okay, this typically starts around that age, and then that typically starts around that age. And the book is a bit of my own personal story too. What happened to me, how I dealt with it, how I felt. I don't want to give it all away, but the last chapter talks about how to prepare and what's going to happen or can happen, because every woman has different experience, but those are the typical classic symptoms, right? So your hot flashes will probably start in your early 40s, and you may get night sweats at first. And so it kind of follows the steps of what to expect, what it feels like, what it felt like for me. And, I threw in a few jokes here and there. So it's a very light, easy read. It's not, I thought of making it more heavy and scientific, but, most of us don't have a lot of time to read. So it's very light. It's easy to read, very structured. So gives you an idea what to expect. So at perimenopause, what happens, and then after. So menopause is actually one day in your life.
Oh.
You're either in perimenopause, which can be anywhere from 2 to 10 years, typically starts around 40, 42. And then menopause is when you are 12 months without a menstrual cycle. So that anniversary day, so it's good to keep track of your things, right? In your phone, on your calendar. So that one day, that's menopause. So that means you've officially paused your menstrual cycle. Everything after that is considered post-menopausal. So once you've had that 12-month threshold, then you are forever considered post-menopausal. But menopause is the general term that we use for all of it, right? But there's like two distinct phases. So in perimenopause, you can have a lot of those symptoms, the hot flashes, the night sweat, the brain fog, the joint pain, all these things, but you probably still have a menstrual cycle. You may only have 1 or 2 a year, but if you only have 1 or 2 a year, you're still considered perimenopausal, right? So it's that 12-month of no bleeding. That is the mark or the point where your doctor or your gynecologist will ask, okay, has it been 12 months or has it been? So if you're at 11 months and you have a period, you have to start counting all over again.
Which is why it feels like forever.
Yeah. So that's important if you are taking hormone therapy, right? Because it's going to depend what they give you. They're usually a combination of estrogen and progesterone, sometimes with a little bit of testosterone, but it depends if you have a uterus or not, still bleeding or not. So hormones need to be adjusted depending on what's going on there. So that's why it's important to start tracking. And if you are having issues, you may have cysts or fibroids or, issues with your uterus or your ovaries. So your doctor will want to know, okay, when was your last period? How often? How long? So there are really good apps you can get for your phone to track all of that. And it gives a list to give to your doctor. You can either email it or print it out, and like he or she can see what's been going on in the last year or two. So there's a lot of technology becoming available to help with that. So because, we tend to get forgetful at this stage of life, right? The brain fog is real. So
you have to say that out loud.
Yeah, I'm hot flashing as I'm speaking here. So if I'm it's because my brain is a little bit occupied trying to cool myself off.
You're one of us. It's okay.
Yeah. So I still get them. Pretty much daily. So the hormones, yes, it can help, but it's not for everybody. I don't go into too much detail in the book because I'm not a medical doctor, so that's not really my domain, but I do cover it lightly. And there are a lot of good books that are written by gynecologists and doctors and on the subject. And there's so many podcasts as well. And but it's a very trial and error thing. It's not like you take a pill and poof, everything is gone, because they don't really know what levels to give you. So they have to keep adjusting. So you take a hormone, you need blood work after a month or two, they tweak it again, and you go back and you tweak it, bring it higher, bring it lower, until they figure out the good combination for you, for your body. And then as your menopause progresses, then that can change as well, because you may need more of one and less of the other. And then some women just can't take them at all. Like myself, I've had, in my 40s, I had a pulmonary embolism. So that's a blood clot in the lung.
Oh my gosh.
That was a very close call.
Yes.
And I don't want to have another one. So when you take hormones orally, like a hormone pill, it's systemic. So it goes through your liver, it goes through your body. So it can increase your risk of certain blood clots or certain other medical issues. So there would be an option of maybe taking a cream or a patch transdermally, but I just don't want to take that risk. Like, it makes me too nervous. Plus my doctor doesn't want me to either. Says, if you really, really, really want to, we can try, but like, it's too, I don't want to go through that again. So I'm doing it cold turkey. I take supplements. I tweak my diet. There's a lot of adaptogenic herbs that can help. You have to be careful though with those herbs like black cohosh and all. A lot of these things, it's not regulated, and some of them can really damage your liver. So I'm very cautious of what I take, but typically I just balance my vitamin D, my magnesium. I like CBD oil. It really helps to kind of relax and calm your mood. Ashwagandha is another one. It's a root, a herb that you can mix in food or drinks, or just take a tablet, and it helps to kind of regulate blood sugar, helps with muscle mass. So I don't take them all the time because it's good to give your body a break, because supplements, you have to always watch for your liver not to take too much of certain things. But you can kind of go back and forth with things like that. And the food, like just minimize processed food, sugar, alcohol. I drink zero alcohol. I cannot tolerate it anymore.
Okay. I'm making up for you.
Not that I ever could. I've been one of those. I've always been one of those cheap drunks, right? One glass and I'm feeling it. And now I cannot at all. It just, I turn into flames. I just can't. So I thought, you know what? Don't need it.
No problem. Yep.
I do other things. But, every woman will be different. And I
Right.
have some friends and some clients and some, people I know that take hormones, and it works really, really great for them. Because it's not just for the hot flashes. The hormones has a certain effect, protect against heart health and brain health. And your bone, muscle, and skin will do better than without, right? Because it's the first thing that happens is the skin changes. But a woman that takes hormone therapy for, let's say, I don't know, 8 years, their skin is not going to age as fast as a woman that doesn't have hormone therapy. So it does have that's, and other things, but some just can't. Some, it gives them headaches, it gives them weird side effects, and they try it for a bit of time and they're like, nope, I don't feel good. Typically, if you didn't do well with birth control pills, you'll probably have a hard time with HRT because it's similar, right? So some women just can't take any hormones. They're very sensitive to it. So you work with your diet and incorporating a lot of things like flax seeds and, good healthy fats with omega-3 that helps with inflammation. So there's so many things in your food that can help. And it's, you have to do a bit of trial and error and a bit of research and see what works best for you. But some women never take a hormone and they have, no issues at all. So
right. I have not taken, I took a bunch of hormones when I was trying to get pregnant. But I have not taken any hormones to replace anything that's happening now. And I don't know what I would be experiencing that would make me think that I should. But I'm wondering also if there's just something in the back of my mind, because my mom had breast cancer twice, and it was not in our family, in our genetics. And her doctor, I don't know if a friend, this could be so unfounded, but it's just the narrative that I either created myself or overheard and owned myself, but that breast cancer is a result of hormone replacement therapy. And, obviously nothing is as tried and true as that, but I think it's just not something that I've ever even investigated because of what her experience was. And again, I don't think that I'm experiencing anything in my body that makes me call the doctor and say,
exactly,
we got to do something
about that's the situation that you would take it when you cannot function, right?
Right.
If you're not sleeping, if you're just not functioning. So some people, they have no choice because they really can't.
Of course not.
So you don't want to take them if you're feeling good. If you're feeling good and you're dealing with the menopause symptoms, then why take them?
Sure.
But it's more of a quality of life thing, right? Some women have it really, really hard. So if it helps them get through their work day or, things like that, some just take them in the peri-menopause years, and then once things stabilize, they go off. Some only take them post-menopause. So it really depends what your symptoms are that are really affecting your quality of life and your daily activities. And, not every woman needs it, but it can certainly help a lot of women, an awful lot.
100%.
I think it would have helped me, but I just can't. They won't give it to me. So,
so would the process be to have a panel done to just check your hormone levels? And I think here in the US, that's not always something that our traditional doctor will do, but there are some functional medicine doctors. I have a great resource that I'll put in the show notes. A woman in Los Angeles, and she does virtual appointments, and she can order the lab work. And so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, she can help you. But that is not something that I've done yet, but who knows?
Well, there's a lot of, it depends where you live, right? Like here in Canada, Atlantic Canada, like if you just want to get tested to see where you're at, let's say in your perimenopause, they won't, because it's inconclusive, because your hormones go up and down, even during a day, it can change. So if you have a blood test, let's say on Tuesday, the next week, it could be completely different. Once you are post-menopause or close to, they can sometimes test to see where your levels are at to deduct that you are officially in menopause, right? Let's say you had a hysterectomy, so you're not bleeding.
Okay.
Or you had that in your, I don't know, let's see, at 35. So obviously you don't have a period. So you don't really know when you're menopaused. If you still have your ovaries, you can still be having estrogen and things like that. So they can do blood work at that point to see once your ovaries pretty much shut down, so that they can see. But just to see, like I've asked many times, like in my 40s, like, can we do blood work to see like where I'm at or what's going on? And they're like, it's not clear because there's so many fluctuations. So it just depends on your own, whether you have a uterus or ovaries. Because if you have a total hysterectomy, let's say when you're in your 30s, for whatever reason, you're instantly in menopause. As soon as those ovaries come out, you're in menopause, whether it's due to a cancer or fibroids or whatever is going on there. That's a different scenario. Or certain cancer treatments, like breast cancer, for example, or cervical or uterine cancer or ovarian cancer. Sometimes the treatments for that or the medication will put you in menopause instantly, because some of those cancers are fed by the estrogen, right? So they need to, they'll give you something like tamoxifen or an estrogen reducing or a medication to stop the estrogen. And often they'll tell you not to eat soy and things like that in your diet, so that you're not doing anything that could potentially feed the cancer. So there's a lot of different scenarios. So blood test is not always clear cut. So that's why typically don't do it. But that being said, private clinics tend to do it. So again, it's for profit clinics. It's different, right? So you got to pay like $500 for your blood work.
Right.
And my doctor's like, doesn't really believe in that, and like kind of made a face like, you can do it if you want to, but like it's not the same readings as what we have, and so they're not really on the same page with that. And a lot of those compounded hormones in those clinics that you go and you pay, they're not Health Canada regulated, so you have to be careful. Some are, some are not. Bioidentical means that they're close to what your own body produces, but all natural is not always better. And you can get bioidentical from your doctor that are Health Canada approved drugs and researched, right? So not sure about putting yam cream and things like that, right? You don't know what it's going to do in years to come. So you want to use something safe and that is tested, and that we know we have research to back it up. There's a lot of, stuff that are sketchy out there.
I mean, and even if it's well-meaning, like you said, don't know what the future, if it's a new product, you just don't know what it's going to do. I mean,
that being said, there is a
saran wrap in the microwave.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone thought that was all the rage.
Yeah. So there's things always change. But that being said, talking about hormone and drugs, there is a new drug. I don't know if it's out in Canada yet, but it's out there. And it is not a hormone, but it's a medication specifically for hot flashes. So I'm watching that. So we're starting to see new developments, because there was nothing else other than hormones, nothing. But they're finding how the brain works with, the regulation of the body temperature and things like that. So there's a new, I don't know what class of drugs it is. I've just learned about it recently, but I don't want to be the first one to use it for sure. I want to see what kind of weird side effects comes with that. But it's advancing. So that is a really, really, really good thing. So maybe in 10 years, in 15 years, when our kids or, our daughters or stepdaughters or whatever have menopause, like they will probably have better tools than we do, because our generation will not take this sitting down. So we're being very proactive. And there's a lot of talk about it. There's we're forcing the research. So I think it's going to bring about a lot of things in the future to help women deal with these symptoms, because it's quite something. It's not, nobody talks about it. And ask an older woman, how was your menopause? Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. You hear that a lot. And a lot of my clients still ask their mothers or grandmothers, and that's the answer they get, because they do not want to discuss it. They're very uncomfortable.
Well, there's a lot of shame
Yes,
associated
very
with
taboo,
because they were in experiences that I'm aware of, where their husband said, "You're crazy. What happened to you? You're crazy." And we don't need to hear that very many times from
we're just trying to push through and survive.
Right. And when you hear something like that from someone that you love, or from someone who is in, regardless of your relationship, you don't want to hear that you're crazy, but then you feel like if you talk about it, you're just going to be accused of being more crazy, which will, guess what? Make you more crazy.
Well, menopause rage is a real thing.
Yes, it is.
And looking back, I had it in my 40s and I did not even realize, it's like PMS on steroids. You just lose your shit. You literally do, and you scream at everybody. And it's like,
you're
whoa,
having an out-of-body experience watching yourself going,
and you hear yourself, and you watch yourself. Did I just say that? Did I just do that? What is wrong with me, right? Some women don't get it, but some do. Typically, if you had PMS, hard, bad PMS in your younger years, chances are you'll get that, right? But so a lot, and I mean, women of a certain age didn't talk about periods or body parts, or, now we can say vagina, nobody cares, but my grandmother would have never said, you know what I mean? They just don't talk about these words. They're very, very uncomfortable. So they just suffered, man, they suffered silently.
Now that leads me to a question about, so the woman who is in peri-menopause, and she's having these fluctuations in her hormones, and she's experiencing this rage, and at the same time, she is raising
teenagers,
a 14, 15, 16-year-old girl. What is happening there? Because you said the menopausal woman is having the opposite body chemistry.
Both mother and daughter are fueled by hormones at this point, right? So the younger female, the teenage daughter, her hormones are ramping up, right? So her period probably just started. So she's having probably more intense PMS and things like that, because her body's adjusting to that. While we're doing the reverse. So we're losing hormones and adjusting to our new normal. And both are having very similar emotional outbursts and, crying episodes. And you just can't control your emotions because they're all over the place. So takes a lot of meditation and deep breathing at that point, right? I just had a son, so I didn't experience that with teenage daughters, but it must be something, because especially in the household, if there's more than one, and the father or the husband must be like, oh my God, but it's nature. That's how we're designed, I guess. So it's you just have to deep breathe and do a lot of thinking.
I'm asking because my friend and I were just having this conversation yesterday, and I know we've asked for some questions, and that just hasn't been aired yet. So I got her question. For me, I had a toddler while experiencing my the height of my fluctuations. That was a good time.
Mhm.
That was a really good time also. She was having a tantrum in the mall. I was having a tantrum in the mall. It was,
Oh yeah.
we were not the best versions of ourselves, and thankfully she won't recall any of it.
Yeah,
So
no, it's
that would
it's
be,
it's not easy for sure. But the main thing is to communicate, right? So they don't know what's going on with their body at that age, and they're often uncomfortable and shy to talk about it. So it's up to us as the mother to kind of show them, okay, this is what's happening to you, but this is what's happening to me. And that's why we kind of clash sometimes, right? Because we're tired, we're not sleeping well, our body's going through a lot of changes. That's when nutrition comes in, right? You don't want to let yourself get too hungry, because you will get hangry and cranky, because blood sugar fluctuates a lot with that as well. So a young teenage girl needs a lot of fat in the diet, like the good kind of fats. That helps to build the hormones well and just have a better stable blood sugar. If they're eating a lot of typical teenage junk food, pop and chocolate and things like that, they're gonna roller coaster a lot more mood wise because of the blood sugar drops. So it's hard to convince a 14-year-old girl to eat a certain way, but to try at least to, incorporate good healthy habits there. Make sure they're drinking enough water, not too much coffee or caffeinated beverages, things like that. Exercise, move their bodies. That gets rid of a lot of the stress. Get them into sports, get them into things that, that will relax them. Show them good habits, like taking a nice hot bath or doing a stretching or, sleeping enough, and just to start good habits. And, sometimes you can do things together if it's not that time of the month for her, and because there's always weeks that are a little bit more difficult. But now there's even research showing that, especially for female athletes, how and what to eat and how to train according to your cycle. So that PMS week where we're usually dead is because our estrogen plummets, right? So each young woman gets like a mini menopause for a few days right before the periods. You remember that. You just crash. Your energy, you're like, and you just want to eat everything in sight, and you're cranky and you're crabby and you're not sleeping. Then once your period starts, you're like, whew, I'm back, you
right.
feel good.
Like, oh, that's why.
Because then your estrogen goes up again. So it's like a mini menopause each month. So you can tell your daughter, when you feel like that for like those 2 or 3 days, I feel like this 24/7. Hey.
I mean, it actually is a beautiful opportunity to, in our quest to care for everybody else before we care for ourselves. We can prepare the meals that our young daughter needs and prepare an environment for the habits that are going to benefit her. Exactly. And those are exactly the things that we need at that time as well. Yeah. So that is really, really beautiful. I love that. And I love that, right? And that it can be something that brings you intensely closer together instead of dramatically apart, which may have been the experience with, you and your mother when that was happening in your household.
Yes. And there are some cultures where, the grandmother or the matriarch of the family is very much involved, and they prepare their young girls of what's coming and what's happening. And, they kind of know more. Like we're just so busy in our modern culture here in North America. And it's like, go. And then, oh, this happens. What's going on? And everybody just screams all the time, right? But in some cultures, they take time and they have their little herbal teas and they have their little rituals. And so girls kind of know.
I love that.
Yeah. And they have different practices and diets and, like things like that can help. But it just depends where you live in the world, right?
Okay, so we had a little technical difficulty there, and I'm hoping that I can get back to my train of thought since I'm not able to listen to where we left off. But my question was, with women going through this transition, typically externally in their life, as far as their children moving, they're empty nesting, they their role is changing inside their home. Perhaps they're changing a role in their career as well. And there seems to have been, in my experience and in the experience of people that I'm communicating with, there's a lot of shifting going on. And
there sure is
like this awareness, this desire for more, that doesn't necessarily mean like I'm leaving my family, all you people suck and you're on your own. It's not that, but that there's a shift. You had mentioned before, like writing a new chapter, you're in the third act of your life. And for many women, this is the time where they finally, quote unquote, we did it to ourselves, but it feels like finally, that we get to do something for ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, and has that been your experience as well, or just in your research?
Yes, I've been working in self-care and, that sort of thing for almost 40 years. So I've always kind of done that, taken care of me, like to a point, I think more so than the average woman, just because of the work I do. And I preach it to everybody all the time, but definitely feeling more, my son is grown. I've got grandkids, they're out of the house, like it's a different step, different life, but definitely do feel that a shift, like, yeah, definitely different thinking and kind of taking more of a proactive, more firm approach of, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm doing this for me. This is what I want to do. I don't want to do this anymore. There's certain things you can't, like, for example, I hate camping and I feel I have to go because my husband wants me to go, but I really hate it. So
you really don't have to go. You really don't. You really get
yes to myself right now but sometimes you have to compromise. The rest of the time I do a lot of stuff that I want to do, and I've dropped a lot of things that I don't want to do. And definitely even in my work as well, like I've every year or two, like every new year, I kind of think and analyze my business and add things and remove things, and just what works for me now, right? What's like, not that I don't care about my clients, but there was a point it was all about the clients. Now it's like, no. Right. I don't want to work 12-hour days anymore.
There's
what I mean? So
universal law as well, that it is a double blessing when you are not, just take camping, for instance. You are not feeling like that's in your highest and best, but you feel like your husband will be so disappointed. Yet at the same time, and perhaps you've already had this conversation and he says, this is what I like to do, and this is what we're doing. And then you've decided, okay, but he loves you so much and he wants you to have fabulous, lovely experiences. So perhaps.
Exactly. And it's not
right.
negative,
but I mean, just, like, I'm just saying anything that we're reevaluating. And so let's just go with working a 12-hour day, right? Your clients actually want the best for you, just like you want the best for them. And when you say, I'm close the clinic at 5 now instead of 7 or 8, okay. Like that's just the new way. But sometimes we think, oh my gosh, my clients will never let me do that. Like I could never make the music end at 9 p.m. for the party and expect people to be in their cars by 9:30. Well, actually I can. And actually they thank me on the other side of it. Like it was so nice to be home and have everything, the vendors out, and sometimes we make up the reason that our prison door is shut when we have the keys in our pocket.
Yeah. And it's a bit like the, oxygen in a plane analogy of you have to put your own mask first, before taking care of everybody else. So to me, to work a shorter work week right now is important because I need to keep my
Yes.
energy at a certain level. So I got to look, you know, say yes to
Yeah.
me, right? So that I can better serve everybody around me because I'm more rested and have better energy. And maybe I'll learn to love camping. You have to look at the positive. But no, it's definitely a shift in like, as natural caregivers, you know, we're genetically formed that way. It's hard sometimes to say, okay, you guys just go away and I'm taking care of me. So it's hard. And a lot of women can't do it. And I see it with my clientele as well, because I have women of all different age groups. And like, let's say my mother's age group, like they'll come in for sometimes their very first facial and they're like, oh, they almost feel guilty, right? Sometimes it's a gift certificate that they received. And it's like, oh, I've never taken the time for me like that before, right? And I'm like, now's the time to do it, right? Your kids are gone, you know, like some are working part-time, some have retired, and it's like they're taking, and it's important to take that time for us, you know, as women, because we start at a very young age to serve other people. It's just how it is.
Right. I think that the more that we think we can't change something, like that's the first thing I would try. Because the resistance
it's hard sometimes to break habits.
Yes, it is. And then you do it. I mean, I had experience with your cousin, Sweet Sylvie. She shared this story on the podcast, so I can share it too. She was very concerned to leave her child. Only child. She's never been gone. She's, you know, what are they going to do and how will they eat?
And they do survive without us. It's us that has the issue.
He thrived. Did not survive. He thrived. And she thrived. And when she came back, he does his homework by himself. He asks her if he needs a snack or a refreshment. He checks in on her. They just have a separate experience that allows us to have a separate experience. And it doesn't mean that now we're separate. It just means that, you know, maybe we're closer now. Maybe you can see that, oh, look at that. Oh, I can go to France. Oh, look at that. That's amazing. I can go longer next time. I can. And it's just, I just think that a lot of the things that and again, I only want to speak for myself, but a lot of the things that I thought were not available to me, I was the one that was keeping me from those things, not the people that I assumed or decided were the reason that I wasn't getting to do some.
Because we take on the role. We take on the role slowly over time. It starts when we're young, and then we get a boyfriend, and then, you know, you want to cook for them. And then like first thing, you know, you're like, and I think honestly, sometimes I think we smother them because we just take on the role of doing it all for all of our family, and they can very well do it themselves their own way. It's just, you know, women are like to have control sometimes.
Makes normal functioning people into under functioning people.
Yeah. But it's just how like we're brought up a little bit like that. You know, it's starting to get better, but like generations ago, I remember seeing my grandmothers peel my grandfather's potatoes and cut it up for them, right? That's the old Catholic, that's what a woman does. And it's ingrained in us. And we just want to take care of everything and everyone all the time. And we forget about ourselves. So at this age, you know, and in this modern society, I think women are doing that more naturally. Like the husband and the father has a more active role. And so when the kids do move out of the house and go to college or get married, it's a little bit more shared. So we do have more time, free time, and to take care of us and do the things we want to do now, right?
Right.
like write a book.
Right, exactly. So speaking of books, thank you for your time. Please tell everyone how they can get on the wait list for your book, when it's going to be out for consumption, and how everyone can follow you.
My website is dermacaesthetics.com. So there is a order now button there. Right now, it's only available through the ebook on lulu.com. It's going to take, they said, 6 to 8 weeks before it's available worldwide. So it'll be on Amazon and all the typical platforms. And so it'll probably be, what are we now, June, end of July before it's actually out, hopefully.
Yes.
And they can get it there, or, you know, eventually on any, whether it's Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or whatever you like. And of course, they'll be available here physically at my clinic and in my city in local bookstores. And yeah,
Wonderful.
So there'll probably be a link, or I think we're going to work on a link for the pre-sale or something like that. Yeah, as soon as the proof is all read and okayed and all the dots and I's dotted and the T's crossed, then it should be available hopefully in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Perfect. I'm so excited, and we'll link everything in the show notes so people know how to get their copy. I'll be getting my copy. I'm so eager to read it. Thank you so much for your time. You are a treasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It was a very fun conversation.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.